also said that the province's testing is only catching 1/4 of the cases. What does that say about just the conditions we see here in Calgary?
It means we took our eye off the ball. It means that people thought COVID was over. They didn't have to wear masks. They didn't have to worry about restrictions. They were taking their cues from the government. Our contact tracing system was dismantled in July, meaning fewer people are being referred for testing. So there's very little contact tracing happening, as I understand it now. And these were terrible mistakes, whether or not you wanted to have mask restrictions or other restrictions on people's behavior. The test, trace, isolate is the backbone of the system. And even though they backed off on the complete dismantling of the system, certainly it is not nearly as rigorous or as vigorous as it was before.
So while you say good on her for now putting these things forward, but
let's fix it.
Shouldn't this have happened also weeks ago?
It should have happened weeks ago. It should have happened in August. As I've said many times, people are entitled to a vacation, but you still do your work. You know, I put in mind of the Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, who went off on vacation in the middle of the wildfires. And ultimately, you got to get the work done. And this should have happened weeks ago, and we could have prevented a lot of misery had we done so. But here's the critical thing. Admitting it is one thing. What are we going to do about it? And I'm pleased that the province brought the mask restrictions back in. What else are we going to do about it? And I'll point out that when they brought them back in, they exempted schools and they exempted places of worship for no rationale. They got to get serious about this.
Does the city's bylaw take precedent on places of worship? Is it just in Calgary?
Our position is that masks are required in places of worship in Calgary as a result of the city bylaw.
I know that during the emergency management committee, part of the direction was for this meeting to have to figure out how to do a vaccine mandate for some city services. You've been expecting to hear that. Do you know what we might hear?
Yeah, a lot of this again depends on the province, because it would be very complicated for the city to develop our own vaccine system. I understand that there will be a card and a QR code from the province's app, but it's not clear, like, how do you scan the QR code? What does that go to? What's the back-end software look like? But if it is something that we can do at minimal cost to the taxpayer, then I think council's direction was to go ahead and implement that.
The province did announce that there's a card today, and I think you can access it as of tomorrow.
Thursday.
So, I mean, would it be a situation where, you know, you have to show that card to get into a rec center or something?
Yeah, maybe something like that. Those are the details we've got to sort out. I will tell everyone that if you have not yet signed up for Alberta Health Records electronically, go ahead and do that. It's a bit of a process, but it's very helpful to have it, and you may well need it in the future.
I wanted to ask you, sir, about the vaccine mandate question in terms of the city. Remember back at emergency management, in terms
I wish I had an answer for you.
But in terms of council and council employees,
yes.
I don't see anything on the agenda today.
No, it is on the agenda today. It's a verbal COVID update, and there will be a report on that when it comes.
Okay. Can you tell us what your thoughts are on that?
It's just a bit complicated because and this is very inside baseball, but the people who work for me in the mayor's office are city employees, so they're covered by city policy. The people who work for the councillors are on a private contract to the councillor, and so it's not clear whether the city has jurisdiction over that, but I would imagine most councillors would want to mirror the city policy with their own employees. All of that said, the city's policy takes place on November 1, takes effect on November 1, when all the council staff will be gone. So it'll be a whole bunch of new people anyway.
That's purely a council decision.
I think that's a decision for each individual councillor.
Earlier today, firefighters recognized four new former members who died due to long-term diseases, occupational-related cancers. And the president of the union said something to the effect of working with the city to try to prevent that. As employer firefighters, what can the city do to prevent that?
Over the years, we have really improved the occupational health and safety of firefighters with better equipment and different ways of managing various aspects of their job, but there still remains work to be done. And it is quite clear that it is in fact true that long-term exposure to some of the hazardous materials that firefighters get exposed to can lead to cancers in the future. And obviously that's not something that any of us want. And so we'll continue to work not just with the local firefighters union, but with every municipality to figure out ways to keep firefighters safe on the job and after they retire.
Do you anticipate to hear from this scope you'll get during this meeting, possibly tonight?
There's a couple of things that are really on the agenda. One has to do with the vaccine mandate for city facilities. We'll probably hear a little more clarity on the vaccine mandate for city employees and some of the details that we've been asked about there. And I suspect we will also hear about whether or not we need to make any tweaks to our mask bylaw to make sure that it is proper and easy to enforce.
And I guess the mandate for city employees, has that policy been finalized yet, or is it?
I believe they are meeting about it right as we speak. So that'll be hot off the presses probably sometime tomorrow when we get to that item.
Do you know what's going to happen with the issue then of enforcing the mask mandate regarding places of worship?
I don't. But I will ask that question today.
Police have the ability, or is that strictly
Yes,
within
police
bylaw?
and peace officers have the ability to enforce our bylaws.
So, like many other things, I guess it'll be complaint driven.
Exactly. Okay.
Well, I just have one other question. I don't know if this is something that's going to come up during that vote. But proof of vaccination to access certain city facilities. Are there any city facilities that are holding stations for October 18th? And will that be an issue?
Oh, what a good question. What a good question. I do not know. I'll ask that on the floor.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.